there was a new translated chapter from Meakashi. This is from the 07th expansion wiki YouTube channel, and the video is called Higurashi Meakashi debug tip, and then D asterisk O's world. So I assume they mean like Dio's world, right? I'll put it up on screen. This is what it looks like. This is the title if you want to find it yourself. So here's the tip. It's Dio's world. I assume, again, they mean Dio, like literally the JoJo character. So let's see what this tip is all about. This is so loud, but I'll just be quiet for it. Oh, right, sorry. It's translated through closed captioning. There it is. So I'll probably read a little bit of it. So attention please. This tip was created by the author for testing purposes. It features some lookalikes, but they have no connection to the main story. Please note in advance, regards. Oh, okay. So just be aware of it. So look at this, Rena. I've come up with a foolproof punishment game no matter how long you can move. Or no matter how long you can move. You just went pale. You're a smart girl. You know what I'm gonna do. I borrowed this from Satoko. You know what I plan to do with this tape. You know you're going to meet a fate worse than that normie Kei-chan. Mi-chan. How could she even think of something like this? This is bad. Oh. You can't escape. If we were playing chess or shogi, I'd say this was checkmate da. Zawarudo. Now it says Mio, but it's M-I-O. That's funny. To be continued, never. And that's it. That's pretty fucking funny. So that's the little, you know, that's the little tip. The cops are smart enough to separate us during the questioning. Oishi didn't come to talk to me. His aim was Satoshi and nobody else. Right, because if you recall, last time, again, when we met Satoshi, before we revealed our true selves to Oishi and to Satoshi, Satoshi didn't have an alibi. We caught up to him. We caught up to him in town, and then Oishi was like on the verge of getting him to just break down and confess that he killed his aunt. Like he was about to touch his shoulder and just be like, "Come on, just admit it, bro. Everything will be fine." We were at that point. OBS might disconnect. Seems like we're good. Okay, like I mentioned, right now it's still raining in my area, so here's hoping that just shit doesn't crash. Like I saw it dip to 0 kbps. I'm like, here it fucking comes. Oh no. Anyway, so Oishi was about to crack Satoshi, but instead Shion's like, hey, by the way, he was with me. We were at a restaurant. We were having dinner, or we were eating lunch together, like whatever, during the festival. So he wasn't at the festival. He was with me. At that point, Oishi's like, oh, well, what the fuck? And then Shion's like, this is going to be our excuse. Tell them you were with me. You were at a restaurant called Angel Mort. And that's it. I got a young cop who just talked about ordinary things. He must have been trying to ease me into the interrogation. When I realized that, the clumsy way he spoke began to frustrate me. Is Satoshi alright? I didn't think Oishi really bought my testimony. He must have been trying to get Satoshi to confess in spite of that. All I could do was pray that he'd keep quiet. The phone on the desk rang, and the cop picked it up.
Hi, Kumagai desu.
Oh, we were being interrogated by Kuma. And of course, we can see his portrait. So once again, if you've never seen Kuma, here he is.
Hi? Ah, so desu ka. Wakarimashita. Sugu ni.
He hung up and told me somebody had come to retrieve me. Looked like Satoshi had to stay. Were they going to continue the interrogation just because he had nobody to pick him up? Although, maybe I should have been worrying more about myself. The hag had probably heard about me by now, since I revealed my real identity to the police. I couldn't hide it. I couldn't hide any longer. I was going to receive some sort of punishment. I had no idea what she'd end up doing with me. The degree of punishment for a traitor is always severe in the world of these Honozaki. The punishment must be carried out. If it's to protect the family's reputation, it's carried out no matter what. Maybe I should kiss my pinky finger while I still can. I asked the young cop just in case.
ねえねえ、アメリカなんかでよく死刑囚が死刑廃止の州で捕まると引き渡さないでくれるっていう話あるじゃないですか。
ん?
Maybe it was too difficult for him. He just looked puzzled. Why the fuck did she say that? Like, what was the point of this? Did you know that in America, if a condemned criminal gets arrested in the state which has banned capital punishment, they'll refuse to surrender him to the state prosecuting him if that state hasn't banned it? I don't know if this is just banter. I don't know if this is just Shion trying to fuck with Kuma. Or if this has some actual meaning. I'm not sure. I am truly not sure. But, I guess I'll keep that on the back of my mind. A glossy black car was waiting for me in front of the police station. A few men from my dad's office bowed to me.
Shion-san, ご無沙汰しております。
葛西は?
Kasai had been helping me ever since my escape from the school. They wouldn't allow him to walk free.
お姉はどうしてるの? 何か言ってる?
私たちはシオンさんを本家へお連れしろとしか言われていませんので、詳しくは本家でお尋ねになってください。
Oh. How sis? We were just told to, like, bring you to the main house. Oh, God. After saying that, he escorted me into the car. A man sat on either side of me. Obviously, they didn't want me to escape. Thinking of Satoshi, I looked back at the police station. Hold on tight, Satoshi. I'll grin and bear it too. The car started off roughly. Oh boy. It was never a good occasion when I went to this house, except when Mion and I were really small, oblivious of what the Sonozaki name meant for us. I'd been here only when I had to attend boring family councils. The car parked behind the house. Also, I assume this is all supposed to be dark, because I mean, there's a little filter, right? Normally these are all daytime shots if we do this. It is nighttime, yes. Traders aren't allowed in through the main gate. I got out of the car. I got out of the car. It looked like Sis would be the only person to receive me. I almost spoke to her casually, but her cold gaze froze me before I could.
お久しぶりですね、シオン。
Sashiburi. God, this looks... she looks so fucking terrible. Anyway.
新年以外に会えるとは思いませんでした。
It gave me chills to hear her greet me in that cold manner.
ミオン姉様こそ、ご機嫌麗しゅうございます。新年以外にお顔が見れて、三問くらいの得を感じます。
If you listen to the way they're speaking again, it's very, very, very formal Japanese. You know, there's very casual greetings in Japanese. A brother and sister would never, or, you know, siblings would never speak to each other this way unless it was like 200 years ago. These are all very formal, you know, oh, how art thou? You know? How hast thou been? 'Tis been a fortnight since last I saw thee. You know? That's kind of how they're talking right now. So it's kind of interesting hearing them take this tone, as it kind of just emphasizes the mood quite a bit. Anyway. I responded, trying to sound likewise.
当主は大変ご立腹ですよ。どう釈明されるか見ものです。私がするような釈明なんて別にないですし。
I had no excuse. I'd escaped from the school solely because I couldn't stand it there. That was all.
シオン、来なさい。皆待っています。
Mion escorted me, and the others followed. We went to the garden, not into the main house, or not into the house. Oh boy. As we passed through the huge yard in the woods, I realized where she was taking me. When we were little, we were told never to go near these woods. I had a vague idea of what was in the back of them. I'd heard there was a hidden entrance to the underground torture room where they used to punish enemies of the family. The more hideous rumor I heard about the family, the more credible those rumors seemed. Well, I wasn't completely certain about any of that. I'd never expect to see the torture room for myself. We came to a concave clearing in the middle of the woods. I saw a metal door at the bottom of it. The door reminded me of a bomb shelter. And here we have the whooshing sound. God, what's the name of that tube? A groan tube. Yes, a groan tube. The wah ones, those. The ones that when you flip it, it makes one sound, and then when you flip it again, it makes another. But you can hear it here, like faintly in the background. I was surprised to hear my own voice. My voice was trembling. It made me realize that I was more scared than I thought. Nobody answered my question. The very air felt tense. According to the family rules, one of the twins must be eliminated. Was I finally going to be eliminated? I realized that I had been underestimating my punishment. I hadn't been aware of the real terror of the real terror until now. I just thought I was. Beyond the steel door, the air had an intimidating smell. This really was happening to me. I shouldn't allow myself to give in to fear. I felt like saying something rude, but my lips were dry, and my fingers were fidgeting. I was escorted through the narrow hallway and down a few sets of stairs. There I saw another huge steel door. So, this was the place. It was spacious and it was a spacious and utterly odd-looking room. The room had two sections that looked completely different. One side looked like a lounge. I saw several high-ranking members of the family council sitting on cushions there, looking expressionless. The other half was tiled, as if in a large public bath. That was already puzzling enough. And there were those things. To be honest, they had captured my attention from the moment I arrived. I noticed them even before I saw the lounge and tiled space. Oh, we're getting music? Here, I'll turn it up for a little bit. I just didn't want to accept that they existed. I couldn't stand straight. I almost dropped to my knees, but I couldn't. Two young men had been holding me by the arm since I got there. Or since I got here. There were oddly shaped things hanging from the wall. I was just refusing to recognize what they were. I knew exactly what they were called. I see. I understood that. Those eerily shaped objects were torture devices from hell. Granny jump scare. The hag, sitting at the front of the lounge, intimidated me in a horrid voice. She kept cursing me for a little while, but she was so incensed that I could barely tell what she was saying. I knew what she was trying to say, though. The hag was willing to forgive my escape from the school, but once I revealed my identity to the police, she had to step in. Since I had disobeyed the family rule, she, as the leader, was forced to punish me. Moreover, there was one thing that bothered her more than anything else. The fact that I covered for Satoshi. The Hojo family had been seen as traitors to the village ever since the damn conflict. Satoshi is still considered one of them. She couldn't accept that I was connected to him. To me, this was a bit unexpected. I'd escaped from the school the hag had put me in. All the while, I'd believed that was what she was upset about. But in fact, she said that she was the most uncomfortable with my connection with Satoshi. I couldn't believe this. Of course I knew that Satoshi's family was persecuted for their betrayal. But I didn't think that Satoshi was also burdened with that responsibility.
そんなのサトシ君関係ないじゃないですか。サトシ君の親はわかるとしてもサトシ君個人には何の責任もな。
しゃあなしよ。
Angry hag. Oh boy. And then back to normal. The shift. That shift was really fucking funny. Like that transition from like gritting her teeth to just her mouth like closed. Or her face relaxed, I mean. The hag interrupted me with a shout, which made me cower in fear. She continued slandering the Hojos and said that Satoshi was a cursed child. I started feeling pissed off. What did he do to this? What did he do to deserve this? What was he being blamed for? It was too late when I realized I'd said that out loud. The hag looked furious. I'd obviously upset her. I decided to repeat myself to make it very clear how I felt.
Oni Baba, あんた何言ってんの?
Oni Baba. Holy shit, like Baba's already like Baba is, you know, like the way you refer to like someone old but in a kind of like rude manner. It's like, hey granny, you know. And then Oni, hold on, let me see if I can read it. I'm pretty sure, I think that is the character for Oni. It's been a bit since I've looked at it, but let me just double check. And if it is, then yeah, she's calling her like, you know, you old ogre, like bitch. Like yeah, it's the kanji for Oni. So like Oni Baba, you know. So Oni ogre, Baba, you know, old woman. God, Shion, you're gonna get fucking decapitated and dropped into a swamp.
なんばねすったら口の利き。
やかましい。しまいまで聞きなよ、鬼ババ。
I shouted loudly to silence the hag.
だいたいあんたはサトシ君の何を知ってるの？サトシ君のことをよく知りもしないくせに、まるで彼を害虫みたいに言い捨てて。サトシ君がどんなにいい人か、私はよく知っている。彼が北条だからいけないの？バカみたい。
バカみたい。
時代錯誤も甚だしい。園崎の私が北条のサトシ君と一緒にいたのがそんなにも不愉快なの？
うん。
くったらないくったらないバカみたい。こんな安っぽい色味釣りを自分で体験できるなんて思わなかったな。
My voice became hoarse from shouting. My face was messy with tears. Even so, I didn't feel like putting a stop to my emotional explosion. I was all too aware that I was doing this just to overwhelm my fear. The hag was glaring at me while breathing heavily. I glared back at her as fiercely as I could. Eventually, I realized that her sticking point was my relationship with Satoshi. She wasn't only upset that I had a mere connection with him.
そっか。ミオンがそういう告げ口をしたわけか。
It was as though Mion was wearing a mask. She didn't budge under my penetrating glare. That was what the hag was really unhappy about. The fact that I was in love with Satoshi.
確かに私、自分が園崎家だとか、サトシ君が北条家だとか、そんなの認めますよ、認めます。 私は北条聡くんが好きです。彼のことが大好きです。それっていけないこと？人が人を好きになるのに何か理由が必要？
I could see the relatives shaking their heads in turmoil. Among them, I saw my mom. She must have been trying to protect me. But even she wouldn't look at me. Instead, she looked silently at the floor.
後ろのあんたたちも聞こえてるでしょ？私おかしいこと言ってる？あんたたちだってサトシ君をよく知れば、彼がどんなに素敵な男の子で私が好きになるのがおかしくないことがすぐにわかる。なのになんで相手の人格も知ろうとしないで一方的に。
Mion held out a hand to silence me. Then she slowly walked in my direction.
もう結構です、シオン。あなたの言い分と覚悟はよくわかりました。
Mion put her head close to mine and whispered.
シオンの覚悟はよくわかったよ。でもここまで言い切っちゃったら誰にももうかばえない。シオンがけじめをつけてみせるしかない。けじめ？なんで私がなんでそんなバカな。シオン。
Mion's face turned cold again, and she calmly told me.
あなたの言う個人の理屈は多分正しい。でもね、あなたも理解していると思うけど、ここはひなみ沢で、私たちは園崎家なの。御三家の末席で、今や事実上のひなみ沢の筆頭家。そしてあなたは仮にも、園崎家次期当主である園崎美音の双子の妹。それが。
I interrupted her.
あんたとはこっちに帰ってからどうもそのあたりの話が食い合わないですね。大人の事情みたいなことばっか。ひなみ沢？園崎家？だから何？私はそんなの全然興味な。聞きなさい。
Sorry, this angry face is just really funny. Mion interrupted me, just like I did her.
シオンは今日まで沖宮で生活するにあたってどれだけの人の世話になってる？
Chills shot through my spine.
葛西さん、奥の牢屋にいる。
Oh no.
なんで葛西が？
I knew why, of course. The moment I got caught, those who helped me were destined to meet the same fate. We were all subject to the punishment of betrayal. Maybe my punishment would be lighter than what they'd been going through. Kasai and Uncle Yoshiro must have been treated much worse than this. Everybody who helped me was falling victim.
シオンがどういう目にあっても、シオン本人は覚悟があるからいいだろうけど、お世話になった葛西さんや吉郎おじさんがどうなるかまでは考えが及ばない？
My head rapidly cooled down. My aggression was all used up. I should be able to bear whatever punishment they'd bring on me. But I resented the fact that I'd be putting people who supported me at risk.
シオン、ばっちゃんに謝って。けじめをつけてみせれば、シオン一人だけの話で全部済む。誰にも迷惑をかけない。でも、ミオン、私、間違ったこと言った？そんなにも悪いことした？
The moment Mion learned that I wasn't willing to apologize, her expression turned cold again. Okay, I thought they might have had like another sprite for her. She turned her back to me and returned to the lounge. I talked back to the hag in a really harsh manner. I told her that I didn't do anything wrong. Yet I had involved many people to who I owed so much. It went without saying, this was my responsibility. I was the sole person to blame, and no fault lay with them. Yes, Kasai and Yoshiro-san were blameless, just as Satoshi was. But then, as if she read my mind, Mion turned around and gave a slight nod. It was possible that something was going to happen to Satoshi. On top of that, Kasai and Uncle Yoshiro. That can't happen. Satoshi, I mean, nobody else should be punished. Please forgive them.
何ですか、シオン。
Tears rolled down my cheeks. I no longer cared about my pride.
ごめんなさい。私が間違っていました。許してください、当主様。
I should have said what the hag wanted to hear, yet she still looked unsatisfied. Maybe that wasn't too surprising. I had just denounced her so badly in front of the relatives. She wouldn't forgive me so easily. Just then Mion spoke as the successor.
ではシオン、どうやってけじめをつけるつもりです？けじめってどうすれば？
Nothing could be scarier than being told to pay up while standing next to horrid-looking torture devices. I was completely terrified. I couldn't move from trembling. Mion saw that and whispered to her grandmother. The hag nodded. Mion summoned some young minions and gave them an order. They removed one of the torture devices hanging on the wall, then set a table in front of me and put the device on top of it.
何これ？爪を剥ぐための道具です。
Oh.
使い方はわかります？
Oh God.
わかるわけないでしょ。
I shook as I stared at the tool. It looked like a giant nail clipper. You'd probably put the part that looks like a beak between your finger and fingernail, pulling them apart as if you squeeze the handle. Pulling them apart if you squeeze the handle. The chills ran up and down my spine when I imagined that.
爪1枚ずつでシオンがかけた迷惑のそれぞれのけじめとします。園崎シオン、どの指でも構いません。自らの手で3枚の爪を剥がしてみせなさい。
3, 1 for Kasai, 1 for Uncle Yoshiro, and the last for Satoshi. It was a fairly reasonable number.
本当にそれで他の人は許してくれるんですか？約束して。私がちゃんと自分の爪を剥げたら他のみんなは許すと約束して。これはあなたのけじめであって取引ではありませんよ。この方法が気に入らないならやるから待って、待ってよ。やるから。
I put the device to my little finger while shaking badly. If my fingernail were shorter, it would have been harder. The metal beak captured my little finger beautifully. The subordinates then stabilized my left hand with a different restraining tool. That seemed reasonable, because my finger would slip out if it weren't restrained like that. As the subordinates buckled up the leather straps, I realized that this was really happening. Also, hey Billy, thanks for stopping by. And there was no escape. Somewhere in my mind, I'd been thinking that they might forgive me after just the gesture alone. I shouldn't have been so naive. The emotions I've been holding back appeared... The emotions I had been holding back appeared in the form of tears and kept rolling down my cheeks. Oh, shit. It was like my feelings were being squeezed out until the very last drip. Something even more horrifying followed this. It was the silence that awaited my next action.
どうするの?
One of the subordinates pointed to the handle and told me to either squeeze it or hit it. Yes, I did remember the tip. We showed it off a little bit before starting this chapter. He recommended the latter would be easier to make it quick. Oh boy, nobody said anything after that. There was nothing to hear but the sound of my sweat dripping onto the floor. The onlookers were staring at me silently, waiting for me to execute my punishment. Both the hag and Mion, they were also anticipating it. I could refuse, but that meant I wouldn't be paying up. This punishment exists to offer payment in exchange for the safety of those who helped me. If I refused, they would suffer. started breathing heavily. I knew that if I did this, the others would go free. This was, if you thought about it, quite a good deal. If I'm honest, yes. Normally in the Yakuza, your punishment would be more severe. There's the stereotypical you lose the pinky, right? But, you know, pinkies can't grow back. It can technically, like, your fingers can technically be reattached. If you happen to lose them, if you put them in ice, and if you, I believe if you protect your hand and put it in ice as well, if you're rushed to the hospital within like 30 or 40 minutes, they can reattach it. They can reattach each finger at the nerve, and then it'll be a little wonky, but it'll still function. But losing your finger is much worse than losing your fingernails. Yes, I was actually thinking about Kaiji while talking about that. Here, she just has to lose one fingernail per action. They will be ripped out, which hurts, but your fingernails will grow back. Your fingers will not. If it weren't me, if it weren't me, it wouldn't be just 3 fingernails. If it were Kasai, he'd have to sacrifice his little finger or something even worse. I knew that. It was my selfish desire to get away from that school. Why did Kasai have to suffer because of that? I knew that. Why did Uncle Yoshiro have to suffer just because he provided me with a job? I knew that the hags and other relatives still hated the Hojos, so I didn't know what they'd do to Satoshi if I didn't do this. Would they bring Satoshi here and tell him to do the same? Would they tell him to remove his fingernails in exchange for forgiving me? He'd do it. He'd sacrifice himself with no hesitation in order to save the others. My sweat dripped onto the table through my nose. I'd do it. Yes. It was only 3 fingernails. It might hurt a lot, but I wouldn't die. The fingernails would grow back. It wouldn't even leave a huge scar. I shouldn't be afraid. The punishment was minimal because it was me. If I refused to do this, the others would be punished much more severely. I couldn't let that happen to Kasai, Uncle Yoshiro, or Satoshi. I was the only one who should be punished. So I just needed to bear the pain. I wasn't just breathing heavily anymore. I was also moaning faintly, ready to scream at any moment. That's right. Make it quick. It wasn't torture. This wasn't torture, so I didn't have to prolong the moment of pain. I should do it in one swift blow. That way, my pain and fear would be minimized. I raised my right arm. Quickly, quickly. The pain would be lessened if I did it in one stroke. It'd be much more painful if I messed it up. I held my breath. I felt as if my body was frozen. I was choking. The chills crept up my spine. Don't be afraid, Shion. Fingernails are just a tiny fraction of the whole body. Just 1 square centimeter. I could do this. I could bear it. I smacked my right hand onto the handle of the device. I sensed the noise through my body instead of through my ears. At the same time, I felt a pain I'd never experienced before. A moment later, the pain pulsated with my heartbeat. I clenched my teeth. I felt like my teeth were cracking. I tightly shut my eyes until my eyeballs got squeezed up. The pain wouldn't fade. Rather, it swelled with my blood pressure. I felt as though it was bloating like a balloon. Timidly, I opened my eyes. I found that my little finger wasn't really drenched in blood. It was bleeding, but not much. Certainly not enough to explain how much it hurt. My fingernail was open, just like the hood of a car. Oh, God. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was overwhelming. It occurred to me that I'd only done 1 out of 3. Did I have to repeat this 2 more times? Did I have to remove the nail from my ring and middle fingers as well? I looked at the hag and Mion begged for mercy. I looked at the hag and Mion and begged for mercy, but they were just silently staring at me, as if the show had only just begun. I saw no hint of mercy in their eyes. They wouldn't be changing their minds. Since they said 3, it had to be 3. They wouldn't forgive me until I removed 2 more fingernails.
ミオ、これで許して。あのね、これ本当に痛いの。私の顔を見ればわかる。本当にさ、痛くて。
Let me get new music, just for a little bit. Mion answered, still wearing a cold look.
シオン、もう無理。
She didn't mean that it was sufficient. What she meant is that the others would have to take the remaining punishment if I didn't. I knew that. I really did know.
やれるよ。こんなの全然楽勝だって。このサディストどもが。こんなの怖くない。こんなの痛くない。
I quickly moved the metal beak and set it to my ring finger, and smacked it with no hesitation. Instead of making it quick, maybe I was just rushing out of fear. I'd messed up. The torture tool had clipped just the tip of my fingernail. The pain, however, was equal. I couldn't believe I'd only chipped it. Did I have to do it again? Did I have to continue removing the nail from my ring finger? That much pain again. Again!
シオン。
I couldn't bear it anymore. I started crying shamelessly. They didn't seem to hear my voice. It felt as though there was an invisible barrier between us. They showed no mercy. They were just here to witness the ritual. So, rather than sympathetic, they looked amazed by my screw-up. Mion walked up to me and whispered to my crying face,
シオン、あとちょっとだから頑張って。
Mion shook her head, then signaled the subordinates. They came from behind me. They covered my head with something like a knit cap. It was a blindfold. One of them pinned me in a Nelson hold, restricting my movement. I couldn't overpower the guy behind me. Then I felt something strange on my left hand. The other guy was doing something with a torture tool. He put the metal beak between my ring finger and its fingernail. Oh, again. My left hand was fixed in the restraints, so I couldn't put up much protest anyway. But even that left hand was pressed down by this But even that left hand was pressed down by his rough palms until it hurt, robbing it of the freedom even to tremble. They had no hesitation. It was made very clear to me how merciless people could be. Robbed of my vision, all I could do was clench my teeth against the pain assailing me. If there was anything I was thankful for, is that he was well practiced and had ripped off both my fingernails cleanly. Pain and screaming might induce narcotic chemicals in the brain. While screaming, I started losing consciousness. That scene was pretty fucking rough. And yeah, even though like I know like nails can grow back and everything, and like if you were 14 or whatever and you had to go through this, even if you were an adult and you had to go through this, it would probably still be one of the most painful experiences of your life for the most part, if nothing else happened to you. Because my God, like it's I'm sure you've probably noticed it. It's more than likely happened to you as a person before. Imagine you've chipped a nail or something, or you've I don't know, you've hammered a nail, and then you miss the nail that you're trying to hammer, and you hammer your fingernail, and then you crack it. Like that shit can hurt a lot, which is so weird for such a like sensitive part of our body. Like, or it's weird that the tips of our fingers are so sensitive to stuff like this. It's crazy. Shion just had hers ripped upwards. Like, the fingernail itself and all the nerve endings that it's connected to just torn in a second. I can only imagine the pain being unbearable. But anyway, I woke up. My memories were missing. I couldn't remember how I got back to my room. I held my head with both hands. My left hand was bandaged. The fingers that had their nails removed had swollen like hot dogs. I had paid with those 3 fingernails for what I did. The hag had said something after the punishment, but I didn't remember any of it. I was taken to a hospital in Okinomiya. The car shook on the way, adding extra pain on top of what I already felt. Somebody gave me some aspirin. They worked just like they said on TV. But they didn't last more than 10 minutes. I swallowed the pills without water. While I was spacing out in the waiting lounge, Kasai showed up. He probably came to check if I was alright. I obviously wasn't. He must have understood that from my bandaged left arm dangling from my shoulder. Kasai, on the other hand, looked just fine, at least on the outside. I was relieved that my sacrifice had meant something. Kasai didn't say anything. I couldn't tell if he wanted to tell me something or not, because he looked so emotionless.
Kasai?
なんでしょ
He paused shortly before answering. I could tell he was upset. I didn't regret revealing my true identity in order to protect Satoshi, but I hadn't wanted Kasai or Uncle Yoshiro to be hurt. I had been contradicting myself.
ヨシロおじさんはどうなったか知ってます？
ういいえしたたかな方です。ご無事と思います。後で謝られた方がいいでしょう。
うん。
I wanted to ask him about Satoshi. I wondered if he was captured or harassed by the Sonosuke family because of me, but I was hesitant to ask. After all, I'd chosen Satoshi over them. Was Satoshi doing alright? I hoped he wouldn't get caught or incarcerated somewhere. I paid the hospital bill and Kasai gave me a ride home. I finally realized that somebody was knocking on my door.
シオンさん、横になり続けるのもやはり体に毒です。
It was Kasai. He put some side dishes on the table and we started nibbling at them.
気分は落ち着かれましたか？
God, if I would have gone through this, I probably wouldn't have an appetite for days. If I had gone through something similar to this, if I would have been tortured or something, it would have been quite something.
落ち着いたというか
How
落
do
ち
you
込んだ
feel?
というか
Depressed.
この数日間はずっと伏せっていたんですか？食事はされていましたか？
冷蔵庫の中の残り物を適当に食べてました。あとは天井を見てるか眠っているかのどっちか。
It had been 3 days. I'd just been lying down since then. I woke up every now and again. In my shallow sleep, I didn't feel like getting up or thinking. I felt like I'd just been floating the whole time. My appetite was gone, but it came back with the smell of the food Kasai brought. I wasn't able to think of anything to talk to Kasai about, so I just ate silently.
昨日、ミオンさんから連絡がありました。シオンさんの部屋に何度か電話したけど、出なかったからということで。
The moment I heard Mion's name, I felt my wounds throb. But I didn't stop Kasai, who continued.
園崎本家としては、シオンさんがご自分でけじめをつけられたので、これで決着とするそうです。あの学園には退学届が出されます。シオンさんは沖宮の学校に編入になるそうです。
園崎シオンの人権が認められたってことか。
そうですね。今後は園崎シオンとして生活してくださって構わないそうです。ですが、みだりにひなみ沢には近づかないこと、園崎ミオンを語らないこと、人前にみだりに姿を現さないこと、他にも
存在を認めてやるから本家に目立つようなことは二度とするなってわけか。
そういうことになります。もちろん永続的なわけじゃありません。ほとぼりが冷めるまで当分ということです。具体的にいつまでという期限があるわけではありませんが、今年いっぱいくらいはこれまで通り目立たない生活を送られた方がよろしいかと思います。
So, before we continue, it's quite important to acknowledge that yes, like Shion got off pretty easy, considering the transgressions she kind of forced upon her family, right? But one thing that immediately stood out to me, let's see if I can go back that far. Please tell me I can. Here. This line. I can't take it anymore. It's too painful. Forgive me, please. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you recall, this happened in Watanagashi as well. The exact same scenario that we just experienced happened in Watanagashi. When I'm still now at this point I'm doubting things, but whom we assume to be Mion went up to Shion's cage, or whom we assume to be Shion's cage, and was telling her that if she like did some, I'm a little fuzzy on it, but essentially if she did something, you know, Mion would let Keiichi go. And the entire time, the Shion in the cage kept shouting, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, in the exact same way that Shion in this story was shouting, I'm sorry, over and over again. So, assuming that, how to word it? The Shion that we were hanging out with the entire time, and that we were calling in Watanagashi, was actually Mion. Because remember, the person that at least that we would call after our dates was Mion. And that was eventually revealed, that it was actually Mion. Meaning that Shion was actually Mion in that chapter, or at least at some point near the end they swapped places or something along those lines. At some point Mion and Shion like just swapped, and with the tattoo and everything. I'm not sure how this even worked out, but we know that Mion and Shion swapped places at some point during Watanagashi. Meaning that the person we were quote-unquote dating was actually Mion. She was being feminine, she was acting like Shion. And the person that we were hanging out with in school was Shion. Meaning that, in that scenario, assuming, or at least, you know, if what I'm saying is correct, if my assumption is correct, then at that point the roles were reversed, where Mion was in the cage and Shion was outside of it. And she was trying to punish Mion for the pain she put her through in this scene that we just watched. Meaning that it was just a direct parallel to that scene, with Mion begging for forgiveness. And if I recall, Mion, who is Shion, again in this scenario, okay, the sister outside of the cage kept telling the one inside of the cage, I want to hear you beg for mercy. Like, I want you to apologize. And she just kept saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, over and over and over and over again. So it's just something to consider. I might need to revisit that chapter, at least that scene near the end once again, and kind of just look at things a little bit from a different perspective now that I know this information. If anything, I'd have to maybe replay the chapter, or in my case, watch my VODs again, and see if I can notice anything different, which is, again, technically what you should be doing if you're playing this franchise. It's one of those, well, I got the game, I finished it in 2 days because I just read all of it and I never left my room. I'm not going to get another one until the next Comic-Con. I should probably reread the previous chapters again and kind of see if I can pick up anything new. Right? That's kind of like how you should be playing this. But anyway, that's just a little observation I wanted to bring up. And then for those of you who are quote-unquote playing at home, watching this either on YouTube or live, hopefully you're also making these types of parallels. Hopefully that stood out to you, because that stood out to me immediately, but I didn't want to break the immersion of the scene. Anyway. Yeah, imagine the game comes out, you're finally, like, because once what, chapter 4 came out? No, once chapter 3 came out, and that was made free, that's when Higurashi, like, exploded in popularity. Everyone was like, oh my god, this game is so good. And then imagine having to wait for chapter 4 to come out, and then chapter 4 is an intermission that takes place before the events of, like, chapters 1, 2, and 3. And then you have to wait another 6 months for the next convention and hope to God that the actual part 4, or part 5 in this case, is actually out. Anyway.
私は沖宮でひっそり暮らすだけで十分です。もともとこれまでだってそうして暮らしてきたわけだし。
Kasai put on a sad smile. I smiled back at him likewise. Before the conversation ended, I should ask him what I wanted to know.
サトシ君はどうなったの?
I wish that Kasai would assure me of his safety right away, but he didn't answer like that.
カサイ、サトシ君は無事なの?
シオンさん。
Kasai put his chopsticks down.
本家から北条サトシ君のことは忘れろとことづかっています。
何それ?
シオンさん、あなたと喧嘩はしたくないんで、これ以上この話はしたくありません。本家からの言葉を伝えるのみにとどめさせてもらいます。
何その話をしたくないってのは。カサイ!
Kasai pretended as though he didn't hear me and started eating again. I'd never seen him get so stubborn like this. The Sonozaki family had been using the Hojo family as a scapegoat. They must have concluded that a Sonozaki shouldn't be in love with a Hojo. It really is like Romeo and Juliet at this point. I didn't like that. Satoko was a friend of Mion's at school. Would it be okay if Satoshi and I were the same gender? Anyway, if I did something conspicuous again, they might do something to him for real. Just like they forced me to remove my own fingernails. The Sonozaki family wouldn't hesitate. They'd torture him if need be. Maybe if I really loved him, I should stay away. Satoshi won't show up in Okinomiya unless he rejoins the Hinamizawa fighters. I'd have to pretend to be Mion if I wanted to go to Hinamizawa, but I didn't think she'd cooperate with me. Even if she did, it'd be some time down the road. Even if they told me not to see him, I already had no means of doing that again. Oh, wait. Mion gave me his number a little while ago. I could call him, and maybe ask to meet him secretly. But if I got caught again, they wouldn't cut me any slack. Should I risk it? What the hell did I even want from Satoshi?
Kasai, ちょっと一人になりたい。
Kasai stared, putting away his food in a rush, assuming that I wanted him to leave.
あ、いいの。Kasaiはのんびり食べてて。私がちょっと一人で散歩がしたいだけなの。
私もシオンさんと一緒に出ないとこの部屋に鍵がかけられません。
Kasai quickly put away his meal and followed me out.
あ、先に断っとくけど、別にサトシ君に会いに行くわけじゃないからね。
わかりました。
I turned around and started walking. I'm actually going to a payphone. I'm going to call him right now. My destination was rather pathetic. It was the toy store that sold that giant teddy bear. I couldn't deny that I was somewhat expecting Satoshi to pass by there. I couldn't stop myself from looking at the faces of passerbys who resembled him. What do you mean by this? See, because this is the thing, right? Like, it's a visual novel with an anime art style, right? Like, Shion has green hair, which is not a thing that exists in Japan naturally, right? Satoshi is blonde in this game. He's blonde and has red eyes. Even assuming that the red eyes are just a stylistic choice, right? Because Satoko also has red eyes. Assuming he's blonde and that's an actual canon event, or an actual canon thing, then finding Satoshi shouldn't be too difficult. You don't need to look at the faces of people. If you see a blonde guy, it's him. He's probably the only blonde guy in the entire prefecture. Like, the only naturally blonde dude his age in the entire prefecture. Then again, since this is some anime game, it could be that literally every person that's passing by has like purple hair or like green hair or blue hair and shit. Just like how the teacher has light blue hair. But anyway, I looked into the store's window. The teddy bear was gone.
Satoshi-kun, おめでとう。買えたんだね。
His evil aunt had died and his wicked uncle was living with his mistress. Satoshi succeeded in fulfilling his duty as a big brother by buying his little sister that huge teddy bear. There was nobody left to hurt him. He was free from his tiresome efforts. He was completely free from pain. Over time, he'd retrieve his smile, and he'd go back to being the Satoshi I love. But I wouldn't be there with him. I heard a car honking. I didn't think it was honking at me at first, but it was so persistent that I had to look up. The person waving at me from their car was Irie. He was waving at me all carefree, oblivious to my feelings. Yeah, I'd assume that, like, in the live action or even in any other adaptation, like, background characters would have, like, brown hair of some kind. If I recall, like, that would happen in the anime. Like, some of the background villagers had, like, brown hair. If you remember, the classmates, I forget their names, but the ones that, that got a portrait, they had, I believe they both had brown hair. Yeah. Anyway, back to this.
ひょっとしてサトシ君と待ち合わせでしたか？
いえ、そういうわけじゃないです。
そのおもちゃ屋さんのショーウィンドウはサトシ君もよく覗いていましたからね。
うん。
それでてっきりサトシ君との待ち合わせか何かかなって 思っちゃいまして。
いえ、たまたまここを通りかかっただけです。変えたみたいですね、サトシ君。
Idia seemed to know about the teddy bear as well. He smiled upon seeing its empty display case, or space.
昨日がさとこちゃんの誕生日でした。きっとあのぬいぐるみでそれをお祝いできたと思います。
Okay, so I was right. Satoko's birthday is like right after the Watanagashi, like literally the day after.
じゃあもうサトシ君は無茶なアルバイトに精を出さなくてもいいわけですね。
そうですね。
サトシ君ってそのひなみ沢ファイターズ退部届とか出しちゃったんですか？
そんなもの出てたんですか？私は受け取ってませんよ。マネージャーの園崎さんは？
Did you manager Sonozaki? Did you get that?
受け取ってないです。
That's an interesting line. Well, he basically said, "Did you, Miss Manager?" But they just translated it as Sonozaki-san.
誰も退部届を受け取ってないならまだうちの部員ってことですね。しばらくして生活が落ち着いたらまた戻ってきてくれるんじゃないかなって思ってます。でもその時に園崎さんがいなかったらきっと悲しむだろうな。
Idia teased me. He's a grown-up after all. He must have been trying to sound optimistic because he knew I was feeling a bit down.
園崎さんも落ち着いたらいつでもチームに帰ってきてください。あなたがいないとやっぱり寂しいですよ。園崎さんが帰ってきてくれたらぜひ女子マネージャーの制服をメイドさんな格好にしようと思ってまして。
I burst into laughter. Idia sure hadn't changed.
あ、そうだ。もう名乗ってもいいんだった。監督、今まで騙しててすみません。私、ミオンじゃないんです。シオンっていう双子の妹なんです。訳ありで、今までずっとミオンのふりしてきました。
双子の妹さんですか？
He was totally taken aback. I burst into laughter again.
そうです。園崎シオンと言います。園崎本家に嫌われてるんで、あまり堂々と暮らせる立場じゃないんですけどね。
Also, before I forget, well, I'll do this, but
知らなかったですよ。まさかミオンさんに双子の妹さんがいたなんて。
そりゃ全く同感です。
oh. Suddenly, a loud voice interrupted us. The voice sounded mean and greasy, unlike Idia's. It was him, Oishi.
入江先生もこんにちは。先日は遅くまでありがとうございました。
いえ、何もお役に立てませんで、申し訳ないです。
They were just going through the motions. It was obvious that they hated each other. Idia whispered to me.
私はもうここを離れますが、一緒に車に乗りますか？お家まで送りますよ。
Idia figured that Oishi was after me, so he was giving me a chance to slip away. Looking at Oishi's face, it was clear that his focus was on me, not Idia. He probably intended to interrogate me until my testimony broke. I was sure I could talk my way out of it, but it'd just be a waste of
そう
time.
ですね。じゃあ監督、そろそろ行きましょうか。
ありゃ、お二人でどちらかにお出かけの途中でしたか？
ええ、チームの夕涼み会用に景品を探しているところだったんです。他にも行くお店がたくさんありますので、この辺で私たちは失礼します。
Idia bowed. I followed suit. I had to admire how good he was at lying. He was a grown-up after all. Oishi seemed to know it was a lie, but he didn't have a warrant, so he couldn't stop us. I moved to get into Idia's car.
お怪我は大丈夫なんですか？園崎シオンさん。
I gasped when I heard that. My left hand was bandaged. It was unsightly, so I kept it in my pocket. There was no way Oishi could have been able to see it.
可能さえしなきゃ綺麗に治りますよ。私も子供の頃は何度か爪を剥いじゃったことがありましたがね。ほら、綺麗なもんでしょう。
But look, they're beautiful now.
男の爪が綺麗でも気色悪いだけです。
Oishi scratched his head and chuckled. He's supposed to be one of the best cops at the Okinomiya PD, and he knows about all the underground activities in the region. He must have heard about my payment from somewhere. Still, that happened in the secret basement of the Sonoseki main house. I couldn't underestimate this guy's sources. So, this is probably a big hint as well. If I recall, I think it was in chapter 3. Or was it chapter 2? I believe they mentioned, I'm not sure if I'm confusing it with chapter 4, because again, remember, it's been like half a year since I started playing this game, since I started reading this series. But I believe at some point it was mentioned that there was a mole in the Sonoseki family, in the Sonoseki household. If not a mole, they had the place tapped. So it could be that's how Oishi heard about all this. Either they do have someone in the family somehow working with the police department, or or they have the place tapped. I don't necessarily mean the, the room itself where they tortured Shion, but maybe one of the rooms where they discuss this sort of shit in the main house. And that's where they probably heard, oh, we need to punish her.
お見舞い、感謝感激です。じゃあ、もう行きますね。失礼します。
園崎しおんさん、私とコーヒーでも飲みに行きません？
はあ？何それ？私を口説いてんですか？
そういうことでもいいですよ。
Oh my god, Oishi, that's so fucking creepy. Are you hitting on me? Is that what you want me to be doing? Do you want to take this as flirting? It's so fucking funny. Oh god. Anyway.
遠慮します。1日は有限24時間。わざわざ退屈なことに費やすなんて馬鹿げてますから。
もう参ったな。じゃあこうしましょう。私とのおしゃべりが退屈になったらいつでも途中で帰っていいです。引き止めません？そういう約束でどうです？
あんたがしゃべるのは勝手ですが、私はしゃべりませんよ。それをおしゃべりと呼べるかは怪しいですが。
ねえ、それで結構です。シオンさんは聞き役で結構です。私が勝手に一方的にしゃべるだけ。あなたはコーヒーでも飲みながら中年親父の独り言を聞き流してくださればそれで結構です。
He's being strangely persistent. It didn't look like he was trying to poke a hole in my statement. What would he even talk about? I got a bit curious, even though I was still skeptical.
監督、すみません。私ちょっと大石のおじさまとデートに行こうと思います。
デート? I think she said that as a joke.
ミオじゃない。シオンさん?
I winked at him and told him not to worry. Idia didn't insist. He got in his car and drove off. Oishi backed his car up so I could get in. I hopped in the back seat since I didn't want to sit next to him.
本当に喫茶店に行くの？
Nope, we're going to jail.
あなたの親類の目がない喫茶店があるなら紹介してもらえると助かるんですがね。
チェ、それなら勝手に連行でも何でもすればいい。
Oishi carefully checked for oncoming traffic and started driving. Oishi took me to the police station as I thought he might. Okay, I thought it was a joke. If he had taken me to a nice cafe, he would have scored some points. But whatever.
書の方が都合がいいと思ったから書にしただけです。私の話が退屈になったら帰っていいという約束はもちろん
私を退屈させないように頑張ってくださいな。署内には腕組んで入ってあげましょうか、おじさま。
Oji-sama. Oh boy. She's being super snarky. Oishi chuckled and got out of the car. He escorted me inside the station. I thought he'd take me to an interrogation room, but instead he took me to an office of the investigation division. Officers in both suits and uniforms were working at their desks, answering phones. There was a desk with a plate that said section manager, and nearby there were couches and a table. Oishi told me to sit on the couch and started making some instant coffee. I'd never been to this part of the police station. I looked around in curiosity.
まさか取調室でカツ丼でも食わされると思いました？
Oishi brought over a tiny tray with coffee cups on it.
想像してたより待遇が良くて驚いてます。三角木馬くらいは覚悟してたのに。
そういうのは私の趣味じゃないな。
Oh boy.
で、おしゃべりを聞かせてくれるんじゃなかったでしたっけ？
じゃあ最初からいきなり単刀直入に。シオンさんって北条聡さんのこと好き？
はあ？速攻退屈なんで即帰りますよ。
じゃあ今のはなしということで。
Do you like Satoshi? Oishi must have known why I had to remove my fingernails. He wasn't trying to confirm that I like Satoshi. What he was really saying was that he already knew.
サトシ君の事件当日のアリバイなら先日熊谷刑事さんに全部お話ししたつもりです。
もちろん私も熊谷君の調書は読んでます。あなたがサトシ君と一緒にいたことは知ってます。
何度聞かれたって同じ話しかしませんよ私。しつこく反復して聞いたらそのうちにボロを出すとか考えてるなら大甘もいいとこで。
まさかそんなこと考えてません。あなたは頭のいい人です。そんな手に引っかかるなんて思っちゃいません。
Man, he really knows how to interrogate.
ならどういう手を考えてるやら。どちらにせよ私からサトシ君のことを何か聞き出そうとしてもそれは無駄なことです。先日お話しした以上のことは何もありません。ああ残念。やっぱり退屈な話でしたね。私帰らせてもらいます。そういう約束でしたからね。失礼します。
I got up off the couch.
シオンさん。
Also, thanks so much for the follow, Rev, over on the kick side.
確かに私はあなたからサトシさんのアリバイを聞こうと思っていました。それは認めますよ。
なら決まりです。やっぱり退屈でした。帰ります。
I turned around and started walking. Oishi didn't get anxious, but instead spoke a little louder.
でもね、シオンさん。私が聞きたいのはサトシさんの事件当日のアリバイじゃない。昨日のアリバイなんです。
昨日？なんで昨日のアリバイなんかが聞かれるんですか？昨日のサトシ君のアリバイがおばさんが殺された事件とどう関係があるってんです？
昨日サトシ君が出かけたまま失踪されたからです。
は？
サトシ君が失踪されたことはご存知なかった？
I couldn't say anything, but my expression answered Oishi's question anyway.
どういうことですか？失踪って何？
やっぱり座ったらどうです？
サトシ君が失踪したって。何？
一つ確実に分かっていることは、彼が3時前に沖宮の郵便局で貯金を全額下ろしているということだけです。その後の足取りはつかめません。
I knew why he withdrew that money. He wanted to buy Satoko's birthday present. Yes, he definitely bought that teddy bear yesterday.
これは私の想像ですよ。彼はひょっとしてそのお金で どっか遠くに蒸発したんじゃないかなって。
逃走資金だってんですか？バッカバカしい。あのお金はね、サトコの誕生日プレゼントを買うためにサトシ君が貯めていたんです。それであのおもちゃ屋にあったでかくて高いぬいぐるみを買ったんです。逃走に使うお金になんかなるわけないです。
確かにあのおもちゃ屋から一番高いぬいぐるみが売れていました。でもね、それをサトシ君が買った確証が取れないんです。
But we know he reserved it, right?
店の人に聞けばそんなのわかりますって。私とサトシ君で買う予約までしてるんですから。
I had a bad feeling. That old man who was watching that store was sleeping when we were there. He looked very senile. Maybe he was also watching that store on that day, and even though Satoshi bought the teddy bear, he didn't remember. Oishi put on a wry smile. It looked like he'd already tried to question that old man.
とにかくあれを買ったのはサトシ君なんです。サトシ君はぬいぐるみの金額ギリギリしかお金がなかったはずだから、ぬいぐるみ代を支払ってさらに逃亡資金を用意できたなんて思えません。めちゃめちゃもいいとこです。
いいですよ。じゃあサトシ君がぬいぐるみを買ったことでもいいです。
Where is he?
じゃあそのぬいぐるみを持ってどうして帰らなかったんですか？
Yeah, so not only that, when I heard about this, right, when it's like, oh, Satoshi wants to buy his sister a huge teddy bear, my first question was, how the fuck is he gonna get that home? Hinamizawa is like 30 minutes away, right? Let's just say 30 minutes away. He has to literally climb up a mountain on a bike. I believe when Keiichi did it, he was exhausted when he did it the first time or something. Like going down from Hinamizawa to Okinomiya is easy. The downhill is always easy. The uphill climb is what's difficult. Now, imagine having a bear on your back or in front of you. How would you carry that thing? In a bag? I'm not sure. Keiichi was struggling to somehow pedal his bike with a shovel because he was stupid about it. But here we have this kid who we know is like kind of weak, trying to carry a giant teddy bear back home with him. How would he do that? What, like, where would he put it? Unless maybe he asked, like, you know, his boss, like, hey, look, this might sound weird. I wanted to buy my sister a birthday present. Can you give me a ride to Hinamizawa? And then, you know, one of Shion's uncles being like, you know what? Fine, sure, that's okay. Let's go get it. But I doubt that's what he did. And I think he would just try to, like, take it up with him. So I'm pretty sure this is one of those, like, red herrings that Ryukichi loves to throw at you, where he'll show you something and then throw a curveball at you, right? The usual, oh, I mean, the teddy bear is gone. Oh, that must mean that Satoshi bought it. And then it's later revealed, oh, Satoshi never came home with it, but he withdrew all his money. So where's the teddy bear? Why didn't he take it home with him, right? At that point, I felt as though my heart had turned to ice. Satoshi had been working hard to buy that teddy bear even though he was under extreme mental and physical stress. After all that, he finally managed to buy it. It's unthinkable that somebody else would just show up. That somebody else just showed up and bought the same teddy bear. The teddy bear was gone because Satoshi bought it. Nobody else. But if so, Satoshi would have given it to Satoko. But though he bought a present for her, he didn't come home. He didn't come home. That wasn't possible. He would have gone straight home with that teddy bear. He wouldn't think of running away after buying the bear. Even though Satoshi wanted to run away from the police, he'd never leave without giving Satoko her present. Anyway, it must have been Satoshi who bought that bear. I can say that with 100% certainty. The question was, why didn't he bring it home? That teddy bear was huge. It wouldn't fit into the basket. It's everything that I just thought about. He might have brought some straps to tie it to his bike. He wouldn't have thought of running away on a wobbly bicycle like that. He necessarily had to go home after buying the teddy bear from the store after withdrawing the money. Nothing could have happened when he was going between the ATM and the toy store. It was impossible. Nobody else could possibly have bought that teddy bear. Never. The teddy bear had been sitting up in the showcase until that day. Everybody could see it when they passed by, but nobody wanted it. It's impossible that it could have been somebody else. There should be no question that he went to the toy store after he withdrew the money. What about the route between the toy store and his home? There shouldn't be any questions there either. He shouldn't have been able to do anything with that huge toy. He shouldn't even have thought of making a stop on the way. So he must have headed home right after he bought the bear. But nobody saw him after that. It was simple then. Satoshi went missing on his way home from the toy store. Right. He went missing? What did that mean? I'm sure he killed his aunt. He's not that shrewd. Maybe he couldn't bear the pressure from the police? Was he resigned to the idea that the police was going to arrest him soon regardless of my help? Did he decide to run away? Did he think that he should disappear until things cool down rather than get arrested? That was definitely absolutely impossible. It was impossible that he came to that conclusion on his way home from the toy store. Even if he did, he would have waited until he gave Satoko his birthday present. Satoshi loves Satoko. He shouldn't have spoiled her like that, but anyway, he always tried to be a good brother to her, so he'd never disappear before going home. I felt as though the ice was cutting through my heart, expanding the frost. If Satoshi didn't disappear by his own will, the answer was simple. Satoshi disappeared by somebody else's will.
Satoshi-kunが消された。バカバカしいです。やっぱ
I thought I could shake off the frost in my heart if I laughed loudly enough. I kept laughing until it happened. I kept laughing and laughing. All the cops in the room stared at me. They thought I'd gone crazy. I didn't care what they thought. I kept laughing until it turned into a cough. I finished laughing and took a sip of the lukewarm coffee. I felt as though the frost in my heart had spread all throughout my guts. I was chilled to the bone. I was freezing. My fingers shook as I held the coffee cup.
シオンさん、ちょっと口を挟まずに聞いててほしいんです。
Please don't get hysterical for a moment.
これから私がちょいと想像した話を申し上げます。全部でっち上げです。だからきっとシオンさんはあまりのいい加減な内容に吹き出しちゃいそうになるかもしれません。それでも最後まで黙って聞いていてほしいんです。約束してもらえます？
いや、約束なんて何でもするから。早く言いなさいよ。
I was feeling far too cold. My teeth were chattering. I felt as though my brain had frozen as well. I lost my ability to think. I couldn't do anything by myself. I could only do as Oishi told me. What he was going to tell me might be the worst possible theory, but I had to listen to it.
死んだおばがサトシ君とサトコさんをいじめていたことはよーく聞いています。中でもサトコさんを執拗にいじめていたこともね。その中でサトシ君が妹をかばうためにおばに殺意を募らせていったとしても、私は人として自然な流れだと思います。
I didn't deny that Satoshi murdered her, but what Oishi was saying was true. I couldn't deny his hypothesis right away. I just kept silent.
ここからは空想ですよ。絶対に怒らないでください。口を挟むのもなし。いいですね。
わかってるから。早く続けなさいよ。
北条サトシはおば殺しを計画し実行した。
I'm gonna turn up the audio a tiny bit, just because the music is getting really intense.
ねえ、もちろん証拠なんてありませんよ。全部私の妄想です。
わかってるって。あんたの妄想なのは百も承知。だから早く続けて。
ここで話は変わります。シオンさん、 あなたはサトシ君との交際を禁じられたんですよね。もう忘れろ。二度と関わるなと念をされたんですよね。それは実は不仲な両家の関係を意味嫌ったからでなく、殺人犯と園崎家の令嬢が恋仲であることに問題があったんじゃないかと思ったんです。
I had actually not considered that, but that is actually possible. After all, when I was pretending to be Mion, I already had a connection with Satoshi. Before anyone knew it, it was Shion who was spending time around him. I could have been accused when I was helping out the Hinamizawa fighters if the relationship between the Hojos and the Sonozaki was a problem. It would be difficult for the Sonozaki family to know that Satoshi murdered his aunt if it happened in Hinamizawa. Maybe one of them even saw the murder. The Sonozaki family didn't like that. Didn't like that I was in love with the murderer. They decided to step in.
あと、あなた、諦めが悪いことでも知られてるんじゃないですか。つまり、園崎本家にサトシ君との縁を切れと脅されて、爪を剥がされても、サトシ君との縁を切りかねていましたよね。
I couldn't deny that. I lost most of my means to access Hinamizawa, so my ties to Satoshi were essentially cut. True. But I still knew Satoshi's phone number, and I expected him to rejoin the Hinamizawa fighters eventually.
園崎本家はサトシ君とあなたの縁はちょっと脅しただけじゃ絶対に切れないと分かっていたと思います。あなたをいくら脅してもどうにもならない。じゃあもう一人の方をどうにかするしかないですよね。
どうにかって何？どうにかって何よ？何？
If threatening me was useless, then they do something about Satoshi. What would they have done? If they pulled something, then wouldn't that interrupt his path from the toy store to home? Toy store to home. Toy store to somewhere to home. What is somewhere? What is somewhere? X marks the spot where his path was interrupted. But what interrupted it? Why couldn't Satoshi make it home from the toy store if something interrupted him? Why? What is X? X. I ran out of air, became dizzy, and then collapsed. The floor felt cold. I felt no pain. I had fallen to the floor like a plastic doll. Oishi and some others rushed over to me and helped me up.
落ち着いてシオンさん。サトシ君が殺されたとはまだ限りません。
You're not certain he was killed? What the fuck are you talking about? Don't you know? Don't you know about that torture room where they forced me to rip off my fingernails? Don't you know that that they say there are prison cells and a well for disposing of corpses in the back? If the Sonozaki family wants to eliminate somebody, they definitely kill them in that torture room and dump the body down there. You're not certain? Are you dumb? Is your brain made of tofu? If I were in the hag's position, I'd kill him for sure. I wouldn't let him get away. If I would kill him, then the hag would definitely kill him.
シオンさん、落ち着いて。これはまだ未確認情報ですが、名古屋駅で家出人風の若者を見たという情報が入っています。東京行きの新幹線に乗ったそうです。服装の特徴などが一致しませんでしたが、警察の追跡等を意識して衣替えをしている可能性もあります。服装が違うからサトシ君でないとは言い切れませんよ。
生きてるの？サトシ君生きてる？
He's being pretty considerate, if I'm honest.
ここからもまた私の想像になりますがね。あなたの双子のお姉さんのミヨンさん。次期当主ということで、園崎お涼の身近にいますよね。園崎お涼は、おそらく最初は、サトシ君をこっそり殺してしまおうと提案したと思います。それを、あなたのお姉さんが止めたんじゃないかと思うんです。
Mion? That was possible. She could have tried to calm things down out of pity for me, but that idiot was always so indecisive. She should have been clear on if she wanted to save him or not, but she probably seemed vague about that. She must have persuaded the hag to reduce the punishment to banishment instead of death, just to avoid feeling guilty.
おそらく園崎本家はサトシ君と接触したでしょう。今回の事件はかばいきれない。だから自分の身は自分で守るためにどこかへ姿を隠せと忠告したはずです。いや、強要したと言った方が似合うでしょうね。
サトシ君は絶対拒否すると思います。だってあのサトシ君が妹を一人残してひなみ沢を離れられるわけがない。
私もそう思います。確かサトシ君は園崎美音さんの紹介でバイトをしてましたよね。だからサトシ君に逃走資金になるまとまったお金があることを知っていたと思います。
でもサトシ君はそのお金をぬいぐるみを買う以外には絶対に使わないはずです。
でしょうね。サトシ君は貯金を下ろしたら迷うことなくおもちゃ屋に向かうでしょう。でももしです、サトシ君がおもちゃ屋にたどり着くともうぬいぐるみが売れてしまっていてなくなっていたら。
I did not mean to skip ahead, but once again, you're right. He must have gone straight to the toy store after he withdrew that money. But what if the teddy bear was already sold when he got there? That would have been a very desolate situation. He'd been working hard. While his aunt abused him, he worked at many different jobs. The money was worth all that pain. He went to the toy store with that money in order to buy his beloved sister a present. That was the only purpose for that money. He must have looked for the teddy bear as he'd always done. But it was gone. He wouldn't have gone into a panic right away, because he was always so optimistic. He might have thought the store was wrapping the gift for him, because he told them that he'd pick it up that day. He must have gone into the store joyously. I couldn't guess exactly what happened next. My heart would tear up if I tried to imagine it anyway. Why didn't they have it? Even though he had it reserved. Did that old man understand the situation, or was he just zoning out? Maybe it would have been the same if it wasn't that old man who was at the store at the time. If a bunch of fierce-looking subordinates from the Sonozaki family went in and showed them the money, nobody could have rejected it. Satoshi must have sunk into silence. No matter how hard he complained, the teddy bear was gone. He probably never even considered that his dream might be taken away. He must have been wobbling his way home in sorrow, leaning on the telephone poles every now and then. It was the day he wanted Satoko to be happy the most. He couldn't get the present she wanted the most. He probably didn't think of getting another gift, because it was unimaginable that he couldn't get that teddy bear. He might have imagined how Satoko would react when she found out he had no present for her. He must have looked unbelievably sad and empty. The money he'd been saving meant nothing anymore. Satoshi never cried, even at his toughest moments. Did he even know how to cry? It was always Satoko who was crying. So, Satoshi never learned how to cry, and he grew up that way. Did you know? People shed sadness from their hearts with tears. Satoshi wasn't even allowed to do that. Did you know? In Higurashi no Nakokoro ni, Meakashi, Satoshi, Satoko's brother, never learned to cry. This was revealed in an interview with the author Ryukishi at... So fucking stupid. Anyway, even though his heart was filled with sorrow, he couldn't let it out.
妹を一人残してひなみ沢を離れられないと言いましたね。でももしも園崎本家が残った聡子さんの面倒は見るって言ってあったとしたらどう思います？
That was such a stupid bit, I'm sorry. But yeah, I was thinking this exactly. Like, it could have been that they caught up to him after he withdrew his money. They surrounded him and they told him, how much do you have? And he's like, this much. And they tell him, all right, either we kill you or you get the fuck out of town. You skedaddle. We'll take care of your sister. We'll make sure that she doesn't die or whatever. You never show your face in this town again. And Satoshi's like, I don't want to do that. And they're like, then we'll have to kill you. So you can either leave and never come back, your sister will be safe, or you die. And he's like, fuck, okay. And he left. After Satoshi found out that the teddy bear was gone, all he had left were some crumpled bills. The family told him it was just a matter of time before the police got to him. They told him to run away. They said they'd take care of Satoko. Satoshi didn't feel like seeing his sister. He wandered and found himself at Okinomiya Station. He must have been apologizing to Satoko so many times in his mind. He swore to come back someday. He headed to Nagoya, and then to Tokyo. But that meant he's alive. He's alive. I should be able to see him again someday. He must be coming back, so I'll definitely see him again.
そうしてずっと遠方に隠れ家か受け入れ先を用意してくれたんじゃないかと思います。サトシ君はそこを目指したのでしょう。
じゃあ無事なんだ。いつか帰ってくるんですよね。
Oishi looked up at the ceiling and stretched. He didn't answer me. On June 24th, 1982, Satoshi Hojo went missing. There was a possibility that he ran away as he was the prime suspect of the murder that happened on the 20th of the same month. Allegedly, someone resembling him was seen at Nagoya Station embarking on a train heading to Tokyo, but the truth is unknown. No one has seen him since. As a matter of fact, no one even knows if he's still alive. Kureiji. Alright, 2 new tips. Oh boy. Page 34 and 42 of the same notebook, it seems. No, these are different. This is a lighter pink than this one. You can barely tell. And then the backgrounds are also different. Yeah, this is like a light pink, and I believe this is more like a reddish magenta, like that type of pink. Anyway, notebook page 34. The information that Satoshi-kun might have headed to Tokyo hasn't been verified. It started as follows. A young man came to the lost and found window looking for his wallet. The station employee asked him to write down his name on the form. Then the young man started writing Hojo as his name, but stopped in the middle, crumpled the form, and wrote a totally different name on another form. Another station employee witnessed a similar-looking young man rushing into the train heading to Tokyo. The employee from the lost and found and the employee who was on the platform talked about the suspicious young man in the locker room. That was all. The wallet from the man named Hojo was never reported as found to the lost and found office. And now page 42. At first I thought Oishi's theory that the Sonoseki family banished Satoshi from Hiramizawa and looked after Satoko in return was bogus. But thinking about it now, it doesn't seem too far-fetched. After all, Satoko Hojo started living with Rika Furude after Satoshi's disappearance. Rika Furude isn't just a regular girl. She was the head of the Furude family, one of the 3 families. The head of the Kimiyoshi family is Rika Furude's guardian. Sonoseki family probably couldn't step in due to having been officially opposed to the Hojo family, but Satoko Hojo is in the custody of the 3 families now. Even though the Hojo family was severely ostracized during the dam conflict, Satoko Hojo was now under protection. It seemed as though only Satoko was exempted from blame. Why was she spared even though Satoshi wasn't? Interesting. Before that, let me just look at all the tips once again. We have 2 pages. Shit, I can't compare. I mean, like, the colors look similar, but the backgrounds are different. So what it could be is that the colors of the book mean that they're from the same journal, or maybe even because this one is different than this one. It could mean that maybe now, because it's the first time I'm noticing it, it could be that we have two notebooks that have the same color, but the topics might be a little bit different. As in, this is like this one specifically about what happened at the train station, about miscellaneous stuff. Well, this is sorry, this is like rumors written down in some journal, while this one is, say, maybe Shion's thoughts of like, oh, the theory was bogus, right? While this one is just a journal that notes any of the information heard involving Satoshi. Maybe. I could be wrong. This could also not be, sorry, these could also not be Shion's thoughts. These could be Akaska's thoughts, for all we know. These could be, I don't know, different notes from different people. It could be someone else that we don't know about yet. I don't know. But one thing that's usually true involving Higurashi, or not true, but something that happens a lot in Higurashi, is that we'll be given a lot of, no, how to word it. Whenever a character theorizes something out loud, you should take it with a grain of salt and not as fact. As in, we had Oishi's theory, where he's like, well, I think this is what happened, and we've, you know, we're pretty convinced that that was the case, you know, that this and this happened. It's not guaranteed that that is true. It's maybe just something there to, you know, get the old noggin jogging from your end. But I'm not 100% sure. Now, I did say I was going to go maybe for a little bit longer, but I mean, we kind of have been going for 2 hours now. So I think maybe this would be a good stopping point for today. To kind of leave it a little bit on the cliffhanger. Ironically enough. But on the bright side, next week, I should also have next Thursday off. So maybe if next week we have shorter chapters, then for sure we'll probably have a few more back-to-back. But this chapter was pretty intense. Good thing I did not start this yesterday. I was thinking of doing it. I was like, you know what? We could maybe squeeze in another chapter. Good thing I fucking didn't. This chapter was an hour and a half long, or a little bit more than that. I don't remember how long it's been. It's like the stream has been going on for 2 hours, but I also did rant for like 40 minutes about other stuff before we started for a little bit. Anyway, let's go ahead and swap on over to the ending screen for now.